these ideals started somewhere in the civil rights movements during the 1960s, according to Forbes, which have now evolved to a very broader concept of diversity. The concept aims to recognize the fairly deal with people with differences between the race, the gender, religion, sexual orientation, age, ethnicity, cultural background, education, language, socioeconomic status, abilities, and much, much more. And to discuss on this, we are fortunate to have a panel of distinguished speakers who bring a wealth of experience and insights to this dialogue. I would now like to hand over the virtual stage to Isha Ganguly Ahuja to introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Kush. We're really excited to be part of this group and the session today. Looking forward to an interactive session and learning from everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Isha. I have 25 years of experience as an HR practitioner, worked for multinational Indian and startup organizations. And I am personally and professionally extremely passionate and invested in this theme of, DEIB. Um, I um, I have a special child, shout out to her, but she's the one who got me interested in the topic. As a woman leader, I am particularly interested in mentoring other women who are in our workforce. I am particularly interested in looking at the different aspects of DIB. So, really excited and hope to have an engaging discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Isha Ganguly. We welcome you. I would request audience to please give a big round of applause. I know you are all on mute, but there's emoticons for you all to be engaged with us. Next, moving on to, I would like to invite Susai Jude on this virtual stage to introduce himself.
Hey, thanks a lot. First, let me thank Zinzen for giving this opportunity, especially Murali and you, everyone. And DEI is one of my favorite topic. Very much interested in this, especially I'm in the recruitment. First of all, let me introduce myself as well. Actually, myself, Jude. I head the recruitment for digital engineering services in Movate. And I started my career as a software engineer. Basically, I'm a Sun certified Java developer. And due to my passion, I moved to recruitment and I carry around 25 years of experience. I manage the recruitment right now. And since I'm managing the recruitment, I have a privilege to give this opportunity, especially for the DEI. Okay. Uh, that's one of the major things I can say. Thanks a lot, Kushbu. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Jude. Next, I would like to give the virtual stage to Pratibha Pal to please introduce herself.
Thanks, Kushbu. I'm really excited to be part of the discussion today. Looking forward to learn about this very intriguing and very interesting topic from our, other panelists and our audiences as well. Um, so, a quick introduction. I'm Pratibha. I lead the human resources for Delta Airlines Technology Hub here in Bangalore. Uh, been with the industry for over 18 years, and I'm one of those fortunate ones who've been part of the organizations which had set the stage for DE&I practices, not just in India but at a global level as well. I've worked with the Boston Consulting Group, Accenture Consulting in the past, and now with, of course, Delta Airlines. And like Jude said, that the profession that we are in, what we do day in and day out, definitely has a lot of impact on the D and I strategy of the firm. So we do have a, a role to play, and this responsibility is a shared responsibility. Looking forward definitely for the discussion today.
Thank you very much, Pratibha. With this, a big round of applause again to all our panelists today. And as I promised, dear audience, they are going to bring the wealth of experience and all the insights, and you are definitely going to have your time. And please stay with us using emoticons and put all your messages, questions in the chat box, and I will take it at the end to the panelists. With that, let's kick off this discussion. DEI communication plays a very critical role in building an environment where everyone feels valued, heard, and respected. Effective DEI and communication goes beyond sharing just information. With this in mind, I'd like to ask Isha, what do you see as the key elements of a successful DE&I communication strategy that genuinely supports and reinforces values of transparency and empathy within an organization?
Thank you, Kushbu. I think DEI communication is a subset of the DEI strategy. So when we talk about organizations, institutions, the first thing is that we'll have to understand that DEI today and for our future generations is table stakes, right? It's not a nice to do strategy. It's a normalized strategy. We have to be able to drive that as an organizations and communication strategy to be successful. And it's a business imperative at the end of the day. Enough has been said about why DIB is a business case. It is good for business. And to me, the most important part, I think, is the leadership thought process. I'm talking about and the leadership at an executive, at a board level. What is the thought process that the leaders have in terms of the benefits of DEIB? How do they think of this topic? What is their thought process, their positioning? I have seen that organizations which actively have leadership and executive support, they lead the path. They are trailblazers in the area of, uh, DIB as such. I must say that, I call it walk the talk. When the leaders walk the talk and they include DIB strategies in the overall organization strategic plan, that's when it's most effective. So having a clear thought process, what do we want to drive? How do leaders walk the talk? How do they align it to the vision, mission, values of the organization? That's a very key element. The next element I've seen is, of course, around how consistently you drive the measure. What is the data that you're using? What are the metrics? How we are using the all our strategic plans. So, for example, if Jude has to go out and hire people, is he given a free hand to hire, people from diverse backgrounds, right? So that's how you marry the strategic plans with the diversity and inclusion.
I like the concept that you said, marrying the two strategies and then taking it ahead, and how leaders need to walk the talk. And as we are talking about the leaders and the leadership, how they should be the trailblazers, now how that we are there, there should be the trailblazers, be the live example as well when it comes to DEI communication. I would like to invite Jude and ask him, what is a role that leaders need to play in specific when it comes to DEI initiatives and communication in an organization?
See, as I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes, you're
Yeah.
audible.
Okay. So as Isha said, obviously leadership role plays a major area in this DEI communication, as well as this diversity and inclusion, especially organization wise. So what I can say, obviously this leadership, involvement majorly, if I look at it from the DA perspective, their major area is into setting the vision and the strategy, especially which is aligned with the organization's goals. That is very, very important. Okay, that organization strategy, obviously that is already aligned with the DA goals, with the organization, what I can say, obviously this will help organization to grow. Okay, the goals setting is very important. And the second thing is, when you're setting the goals, obviously the next level, obviously you should be the role model of an organization. It's not only setting the strategy, you should also be a role model. Obviously that is by leading by example, definitely. Okay, because people will look at you, what you are up to. Okay, instead of not only giving the role and you also have to set that example, and you should be setting the accountability. Okay, you are the accountable person for this. That's one important thing. And the third thing what I feel is, like, obviously we should be very much keen about empowering the team, empowering the supporting teams. Okay, that is very, very important. Okay, so if I look at it, actually every organization has their own goals. Obviously they will be having that women empowerment, or they are having a different DA goals. So this definitely helps the people to empower into the next level. And the fourth thing what I can think about here is, like, obviously this leadership level, it should be very, very transparent, the communication. Okay, see, as Isha said, that it should be a data driven. If it is a data driven, obviously the data will give that values, okay, whether we are going on the right path. And we have to give that feedbacks. See, we have to accept the feedbacks from the people. So it should be very transparent environment for the leadership level. And also what I can feel, he should be a champion, especially for the business imperative. Okay, so obviously what happens, no, he should give the DA as a business outcome. Okay, that's other second thing. And what I last thing what I was talking about is, I'm thinking about is uh, everything, it has to be an educational and a development background. Obviously this cannot be a one level. Obviously we should learn and we should improve our what is the values wherever we can do the best. Okay, this has to be trained. Okay, this can be trained through their the employees experience, because as you are aware, storytelling is one of the major area of DEI. So people should share their thoughts, their experiences, what are the problems they have gone through. This will help us to gain the knowledge, and this will help us to understand what needs to be done better. So definitely what I feel, leaders should be a role model, and leaders should carry this DEI as a business outcome. Okay, that's very, very important. The business strategy, and this will lead to the business outcome. Thanks, Kushbu.
Yeah, sure, Jude. Leadership definitely plays a very pivotal role by modeling very inclusive behavior, driving transparent dialogues, and embedding the DEI values in the organizational culture. And as you said,
Yes,
all this can be done by goal setting, empowering our supporting teams, and all in all, leaders must be a champion. So they must be the brain of everything driving and be a role model themselves.
correct.
Talking about the brain, effective communication is definitely the heart of DEI. Yet too often, DEI and effort becomes top-down directives rather than genuine two-way dialogues that must be encouraged. Organizations must navigate this challenge where it's just not seeing the leaders, where it should be a top-down two-way dialogue as well, and not just one-sided approach. Keeping this in
So
mind,
I
I would
want to
like,
add one more
yeah,
point also here,
yes,
Kushbu. When
yes,
you're talking
sure.
about this organization dialogues, so
Mhm,
obviously what happened now, this is one of the major area what I have pointed out earlier as well.
mhm,
So it should be like the internal and external communication should be aligned. So
mhm,
what we are publishing outside, people will always look at, okay, what are we following inside, in the inside the organization. So that is very, very important when you are giving this DA communication. It should be very much aligned, the internal and the external communication, how we are projecting in the social media for about
mhm,
ourselves, and whether we are following and we are empowering the people. That is very,
mhm.
very important from the leadership perspective, actually.
Right, right. So continuing the discussion ahead, I would like to ask Pratibha, how can organizations ensure that DEI efforts are not just directives handed down from leadership, but a meaningful exchange where employees feel actively involved and represented when all these communications are being done?
Sure. So I think building on to what Jude said, of course, you have to the leaders of the organization, and as Esha mentioned, it should be a boardroom strategy versus a few lines on diversity or what we stand for, right? I think the truth is that. It is impossible to attain a culture of inclusion if all people within the organization are not onboarded with an idea. So naturally, what I see around me is what I practice, right? So to so rather it being a directive, how do we socialize this idea to people, right? How do we set more examples, build safe spaces for people to talk about it, be, it could be even critical conversations, or agreeing to disagree on topics. So what helps to kind of make it a topic of interest for everyone is honestly more listening, right? So having those safe spaces could be, say, a leader, uh, leader led town halls, could be anonymous pulses, but then it really has to be anonymous, right? It cannot, you really need to maintain the sanity of what we are committing, that how we are taking these pulse checks, right? The other bit that has helped us is having various employee resource groups. So, like I said, it's not only it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. Is These are more of practices versus only strategies is what I'll say. So it really needs involvement of people and people led efforts, right? So having giving more autonomy to people to build these resource groups, which are built by them, run by them, and it's for them, is probably helps a lot. I mean, of course, it has helped us at least with close to 12 BRGs. 35,000 of our people globally are part of these BRGs. Uh, Last but not the least, I think completely agree with Esha and Jude. We live in a world where everything is data driven. What we sometimes falter on is sharing this with people, right? We work on our DE&I goals, we have them, and we may achieve a lot of them. But what happens is we don't go back to our people and share the success stories, right? So if I hear a success story, if I see the progress within my own organization, again against a DNI goal, however small it could be, I would be motivated, right? I would be inclined to be onboarded with that idea because it works, and I will actually embrace it as an individual. So I think it's there are various ways to involve people into it, because it's basically everybody's business.
Right, right. So when we talk about that we have this strategy, we need to keep it anonymous. The main heart is how we are communicating it. And though we try our best, we have the best strategies in place. With all this communication comes the miscommunication as well. So when we communicate these messages, particularly because this group is so diverse, it's not one shoe fitting all. Everybody has a different cultural background, different perspective, different experience, and miscommunication has always been a part of this, whether it's through differing interpretations or silly language nuances. Misunderstandings can definitely hinder the progress of all the bigger strategies that we're planning. So I would like to call Isha and ask her, how do we navigate this challenge of potential miscommunication when communicating DEI messages, ensuring that everybody feels included and understood as well?
So let me start with a little small data point. Do you know that in the last couple of years, US alone has spent over $8 billion in DEI communication and training? Just US alone. That is $8 billion. Now, plus many billions of dollars which is spent all over the globe on this topic. So this topic for most institutions and organizations is very close to their heart. And it's a topic which is, I want to say it's a journey. It's not a destination. I want to be in a place after 20 years where the next generation will not even talking about DIB, because DIB would have been so normalized that we don't need to have a conversation. But we are not there yet. We are spending a lot of money on DIB conversations. And miscommunication is still happening, right? Despite so much of communications, training, education, we still have a lot of miscommunications. People are misunderstood, misheard. You know, maybe some people, get offended. Now, there is a lot of nuance to this. So I want to start at the base. Why does this happen? Everything which is different from us is different, right? If you are just not exactly like me, then you're different. And if you're different, I don't know. You are unfamiliar, right? I don't know. So I do believe that people fundamentally communicate from a place of they're unable to understand the differences, but they operate from a place of good intent. So I always say they mean well, but they don't know. And they don't know because something is different. They have never experienced that. If my lived experience is if I've been to the same restaurant, if I've sat in the same seat and I've ordered the same chola bhatura and I've only had that, then I only like chola bhatura. Now, if I go to a different restaurant, order a totally different dish, and I'm enjoying it for the first time, so I'm experiencing something different, right? I may like it. I may not like it, but I may like it. So I'll be curious. So it is about first understanding that we are all different. And if we are different, we have to also understand that I don't know. And I don't know is a very strange feeling, right? Our human minds don't believe in I don't know, right? But once you accept that I don't know because it's different, then the next step is I want to know. Okay. Now let me find out, which means that let me challenge my unconscious biases, my presumptions, my perceptions, my lived reality, and let me challenge those things and let me try to find out, okay, what is the difference? How can I be different? So many times what happens is, there is unconscious bias, there is stereotyping, there is microaggressions, there is different biases that are at play because people don't understand and they're uncomfortable. So the best way to avoid this is, in my view, threefold. First is, bringing our unconscious biases to the consciousness, which means sensitivity training, understanding that we are all different. And how can we make our unconscious bias and understand about that? The second is about having consistent education and training and curiosity to learn more about all the differences. Everyone is different, right? I mean, forget gender, forget disability, forget race. If you go from Mumbai to Bangalore, we are different, right?
Correct.
So how do we understand and appreciate these differences? So that is a lot to do with education and self-learning. And the third is about really, owning it. What do I mean by owning it? I mean that we need to ask, we will not know everything, and organizations cannot teach us everything. There needs to be a formal education and programmatic view to make everyone understand, all the employees. But at the end of the day, when two people are sitting next to each other, it's okay to ask that, okay, what pronoun do you want to be addressed? It's okay to ask I don't understand this. Can you help me understand? It's okay to want to know. I have not seen anyone getting offended by the genuineness, but they get offended if you assume. If you assume things and then operate from that bias, then people get. So miscommunication can be avoided when people think about their stereotypes and conscious bias. They appreciate and are curious about the differences and they own it. They learn more and more about the differences. These are, I would say, the best ways to avoid.
Right. So unconscious biasness, I mean, being self-aware all in all, and being open and owning the thing. So I see even the technology is playing a great role in it, where in Microsoft Teams, as I really see, it's our internal workplace environment where you can really mention if it's a she, he, you can mention your pronouns, and that makes it very easy for your coworkers to understand who the person is. It's just the technology is bringing you one step closer. I would also like to ask Pratibha and Jude, how have they dealt with all this miscommunication happening around in this environment?
I think I can start if
Yeah,
Jude, that's fine.
sure.
Uh, I think the best way is in this world is honestly to communicate, because there's so much information, right? That sometimes even with all the messages with the right intent may get lost somewhere. There's no harm to do more of it. Is uh, Definitely helps. And also with scattered schedules now, flexibility around, hybrid, working from office, working from another geography, the matrix, um, teams working from across the globes, various time zones, it is absolutely fine and required to talk about these topics again and again and again, right? In fact, I think it is such a critical topic that all leader meetings should start with what do we stand for when it comes to
Right.
DE and I, right? So
Yes.
that helps. I think there's so much of content that you have to
Yeah.
keep putting the right one on top of every other
Right.
to avoid mistakes.
Talk so much that the future generations don't need to talk about it or don't need to think about it, as rightly Isha said.
Yes, it becomes the new normal.
Yes, that should be normal. It's our generation who need to just talk about it. I would also like to take Jude's opinion on this particular matter on the miscommunication.
See, the miscommunication, obviously, as Pratibha and Isha started talking about, obviously, this has a connect with the geographic, the different people, okay, how we are reaching. So this messages has to reach the people based on their, I mean, the problems, whatever they are facing geographically. It cannot be what is that, a common problem, because India can face some other problem, Poland can face another problem, US can face another problem. So when you are doing all those things, that communication has to go based on the people and what is the problem they are facing and how we can come out of all those things and how we can empower the people. So it should also align with the goals and align with the what is that strategy. That's the one
Right,
thing what I feel.
right, right. So when we're talking about, yeah,
Mixing of
right.
more technology, definitely there is some or other problems will come. Definitely.
Correct, correct. Now that we're talking about technology and so much data, so much messages that we need to reinforce, we are also living in the era where we have social media, AI, generative AI tools all around us, and we cannot live without it. The landscape of DEI and communication has also grown much complex with all this social media around, because social media, it amplifies voices, sometimes good, sometimes bad. So I would like to ask you, Jude, again, what do you see as the impact of social media and AI on DEI communication, particularly in terms of preventing or contributing to miscommunication?
So what I feel, especially this social media and this AI, they are the most powerful tools.
Right,
Okay, especially if you are looking at this DEI, this is reshaping the entire landscape of this diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's one of the major thing what we have to tell. And when we are looking at it, there are a lot of challenges also we have to face. If I look at it, there are positives, there are negatives as well. Okay. So if I have to talk about the positive, obviously what happens is the social media. It's a very powerful tool right now. It can change the what is that? If you look at recent trends in every politics, it changes the leader, the social
right,
media. Okay. So how we can bring in the change. So if I look at it in the DEI perspective, what happens is this social media and AI helps us to reach wider audience. That's one of the major thing. Actually, you can reach wider audience and we can amplify this DA messages. That's one of the major thing what I can see, the first thing. And second thing what we have to talk about is the second problem. You can personalize. As I told you, this has an impact with the different geographies. So the messages has to reach the different locations. It has to be personalized. And sometimes what happens, when you are doing this personalization, sometimes we are excluding some of the people unintendedly. That is also there. So this obviously the personalization happens based on their public profile. Okay. For example, if I have entered my LinkedIn with the AI, obviously the what is that? The AI will find out my profile. If I have not mentioned, even I'm involving with the DEI, and if I have not mentioned DEI in my profile, obviously my profile will not be considered.
Right.
As a recruitment professional, obviously we always depend on the keywords, right? So more than JDs, whatever we are learning, we are understanding from the from the delivery team. End of the day, we are always depending on the keywords, what we are putting and how we are sourcing the profiles.
Right.
So here the situation is, if you are fully depending on the social media and if you are fully depending on the AI tools, sometimes it excludes the people unintentionally. That's the second thing what I feel. And moreover, what happens is, like, this social media, definitely what happens is, like, it can help us the speed. It can help us to spread the message very fast. Okay, the speed and the scalability of the communication, that will improve, especially if you are embedding this social media and AI. And what happens now, another thing is that it engages the people real time.
True.
So people are allowed to give the comments. If you are putting something in your what is that, it can be the social media, considering your Insta or your your LinkedIn or anywhere. When you are publishing something, for example, you take your this webinar itself, people will update their comments. People are following you. When
Correct.
people are following you, people will follow your principles. That's very important. It's not like you are simply following someone. You simply are watching the movies or something. If you are following a hero, sometimes, some or other way, you will also be influenced psychologically. So that's one of the major area. What we are thinking is, like, it will reach the people, and the scalability of the communication also will improve. And the fourth thing what I can talk about is that enhanced accessibility. Okay, we are accessing lot of area. If you are looking at uh, sometimes, I can take one small example. Take a movie. I come to the same simple example as a movie. It can be in any language. See, nowadays anybody can see the movie. Obviously, what happened now, auto captioning. Okay,
Caption.
you can see the captions. And sometimes what happened now, people can talk, for example, we are talking English. Someone wants to hear the same conversation in Hindi. There are a lot of tools out there which can translate real time. But obviously, we have seen the second side of it. We have seen multiple memes. Why it happens? Because it translates sometimes wrongly.
Right.
End of the day, machine is a machine.
Machine.
See, what we are feeding, whatever we are feeding, end of the day, it cannot be a human. Actually, it cannot give the human touch. You cannot sentimentally or psychologically, you can't approach. So this is one of the major area what I feel, because when you are fully depending on the social media. And the last thing, the major problem, if I look at it, the bias. I think Pratibha and everyone has touched this topic. See, most of the times what happens now, that AI generated content. See, most of the times we are depending on the AI generated content. That content will not target, or will not, I mean, even though it is a what is unintended approach, sometimes it gives the wrong messages. Okay, so we should always be very careful when you are embedding the technology as well, but we have to be careful, and we have to teach the AI very frequently. The sentimental analysis of your employee. See, for example, you are taking your feedback surveys from your employees, and when you are feeding that, and when you are pushing it as a data for your AI to understand and go to the next level, definitely what happens now, sometimes it may misinterpret. interrupt all those data. So we should be very careful. This is one of the major area what I can talk about it. Thank you,
Thank
Kushbu.
you. Thank you, Jude, for saying. Although social media and AI, they are very helpful, very powerful, spreads our message to the wider and the widest audience. But with that comes the human brains and the human touch. But otherwise, it can go wrong because machine is
Yes.
machine at the end of the day, and social media is social media. With that in mind, where everybody is consuming a lot of content and people are also spread across, the workforce is now spread across the globe, as we were talking, and the hybrid work environment is the new normal. So with that in mind, I would like to invite Pratibha to answer this. In this dynamic setup, how can companies ensure that DEI messages are effectively reaching and resonating with all the employees, regardless of their location or the work setup where they are working from? Um, yeah, Pratibha, you're on mute. Mute.
I'm sorry. I was saying very interesting topic and one of the hottest topic in the market today. I think hybrid is a long-term reality now, and honestly, it has a lot of upsides as well. I think in my opinion, the world is far more connected now versus the pre-COVID era, right? Because what COVID did was that it brought everyone on the same play field. It doesn't matter which geography, we were all virtually connected. And the good thing is that it stayed on, right? It does help, but like you mentioned, Rani, Kushbu, that it's difficult for organizations to balance it out, because half of your workforce is in office, half of your workforce is remote, right? And various organizations are following various guidelines around it. But I think, with with being virtual or hybrid or remote, what we have also learned is to be more inclusive, right? So in a pre-COVID era, I will just blindly send an invite. Today, I would first see if my colleague is in office, would it be an in-person meeting, would it be virtual? uh, if I'm putting it like far ahead of time, then I need to give both the options of a meeting room and maybe a Teams meeting or Zoom or whatever we use, right? So I think now we are more conscious of flexible work schedules. We are conscious of what people prefer, right? So it definitely brings in more inclusivity. Now I'm thinking of the other person versus only my schedule, right? So um, but at the same time, it's challenging because what we did in one room 4 years back, 5 years back, is not possible now. But the good thing is that if you're virtual, it has a wider reach, right? uh, like we're doing it today, right? Uh, so what has helped us at least, and what helps is it the D&I communication is definitely should be, the strategy around it should be definitely customized for the era that we are living in, and to be suitable across all environments. So maybe having and you know I can definitely say there are some of those conversations or those meetings or those communications that are far more impactful when done in person versus virtually. But the truth is that we'll have to live with the reality, right? So what helps is say replicating some of these communications if you're doing it physically. Of course, mirroring a meeting that was done in person through virtual meetings or communications, at least, right? I think the other bit is, now that we know that not everybody would be in office at all times, or on one particular day. If you really want to do it in person, then doing all of this far ahead in time. So which is good, because now we plan things around it, and when you plan, you do it better. So it's a it's we're not in the perfect world to honestly cater
Never.
to the hybrid workforce, but I think we are learning our ways to keep people engaged on this topic. uh, I think it has helped a lot as well, because now if I'm passionate about a training and I missed it because of my vacation schedule, there's a recording for it.
Correct.
There's so much focus on putting this across so that people don't miss out on important topics, or they don't, um, there is enough and more for them to consume, right? So I think, yeah, there's a lot to catch up on, but
Yeah.
it's going to be a journey.
Right, right. So we talked about all the elements of the DEI communication, the communications, miscommunications, AI, social media, the hybrid work, which is a very hot topic as well. It's a discussion on its own for a webinar itself. I would like to understand a very personal understanding from you all, from your organization or your life. You all have a very rich, diverse experience. So, how can you share an example of DEI communication strategy implemented that was successful and created a meaningful, lasting impact at your organization or at your project? I can start with Isha to share some of her personal things on this.
So let me give you two organizational example and a model, which I personally like. Um, so one of this, I think, and um, I think all organizations are doing it, and they are at a different levels or different milestones in the journey. But I think having well well connected employee networks, where you have networks for people to come together, for people to have those conversations and those dialogues. It could be a women's network, it could be a pride network, it could be, any community where you bring the people together, and not just the people, their allies, their supporters together, and have the conversation. So I always believe in democracy, right? It says by the people, for the people, right? So that's where you shape the strategy of the organization. Because if I belong to a certain community, I understand what are my needs. I understand the challenges. I know how I want to feel. I know how I want the organization to treat me, to respect me. So I can shape the dialogue, I can shape the agenda and strategies for the organization. So I think employee led communities and networks are very, very powerful. The second is this concept of allyship. Allyship is a program which many organizations or some organizations are running and practicing. Allyship is nothing but having that ally or the supporter or the champion, whatever you want to call it, in the room, who will step in and help you or just give you that little nudge. Let me explain that with an example. So, if you're in a meeting, let's say, and there is a let's say there is a woman who is trying to talk,
Mm-hmm.
and there is somebody who is cutting over that woman. It can be a
Right.
man, it can be a woman, anyone,
Mm-hmm.
but another person is cutting over. So the person who is an ally, first of all notices that there is a little bit of bias or at play, and then how he or she sort of comes in and says, hey, I liked your point, but can we let Aisha finish her point? Can we dive a little bit better, a little deeper into the point, and then we will come back to your point.
Right.
Sometimes, so that is basically, where the moments that matter, where there is uh, lack of inclusion or some issues are happening at play, the ally notices it, catches it, and then supports that community or supports that person, right? So allyship can be increased through trainings, because people can be made aware, they can be trained. Leaders can make great allies. People, from the same community make great allies. But the idea is to be conscious when these things are happening, and how do you stop that real time, right?
Right.
So these are the two strategies and programs I think that have helped. From a personal level, I think I there is a new model or the new concept that is going on. So DEI became DEIB, that is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Right? Do you feel belong? Do you feel belongingness to the organization? And now it is coming as JEDI. I don't know. Some of you may be aware. Maybe Pratibha, Jude, you guys are aware. So it's JEDI. So Jedi is basically, if you are a fan of Star Wars, you know the Jedi warriors who are there. So Jedi stands for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So basically, we are not focusing on the differences, on the diversity. We're focusing on getting justice, being equal, equity, so that we are all equal, and then looking at diversity and inclusion. So I love the model because the conversation is moving to justice and equity instead of just talking about diversity alone.
Right, right. Thank you, Isha, for bringing much more nice insights to this particular topic. I would also like to ask Jude some of his personal experience where a communication strategy was success and how it happened.
Okay, from our Movate perspective, actually, our core values. We have 5 core values. In that 5 core values, the major second one is actually we are looking at respect. Respect the people. Okay, the respect of people in the sense we value diversity and build the what is that? Build the environment. Okay, that gives a trust and inclusivity. Okay, so this is one of the major area we are always concentrating on. The MOVET gives the importance to the DEI. So okay, among that 5, actually we consider this dare to excel. Obviously, what happened? No, we are always passionate to achieve. Okay, and with the continuous improvement. And the third thing is like second thing what I was talking about. We call it as a dream. Okay, dream. So D is a dare to excel, and R is for respect the people, and the third one, we are talking about emulate integrity in all the dealings. We are always very transparent. We are always honest. Okay. If you look at it, either it is the customers, whether it's with the employees, everybody. And we always looking at the agility in everything we do. So we always challenge the status quo. Okay. The focus is always the open-minded focus, and we are always with a great speed. That's a fourth one. And the fifth one, only we are looking at the make the customer success. So everyone will think, okay, customer should come first. You might have seen everywhere in the shops also they mention this same word, customer first. So we always think, okay, these if always we achieve these 4 core values, obviously we will do the best for the customer. We will make sure that customer can succeed. So in that way, actually, what we have done is like majorly, we have a women empower program. Actually, we are running a program, especially if I look at it. Actually, we have a WIN. We call it as a Women's Initiative Network. And another thing is like we have a challenge hers program. These 2 programs, what is these programs are? If I look at it from the communication perspective, how it helps that women initiative network program, the WIN initiative program, every women they can share their views and how they can pursue to the next level. They can share their ideas and how their career goals. So we are helping them to achieve that by defining what should be done and what are the supports we need to do. So that is one of the major area what we are doing. And challenge her, the other program what we are doing is majorly for the leadership level. The leadership level, if you look at it, actually everybody knows The leadership level, the women employees are very less. This is across the organization. It's not only any. It's not only for Movate. It's not only for any XYZ company. We are talking about the diversity and inclusion. Okay. Now Isha also covered about it. Actually, at some point of time, we may not talk about the DEI, but end of the day, that level will reach only when you are bringing the leaders to the top.
Mm-hmm.
How many organizations, if I look at it, what is the percentage? What is the women leaders in the organization?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't want to count here the two leaders. Okay. But obviously, how it happens for the other organization in a whole, actually, that
It's
is
a
very
journey,
important.
and I'm sure we all will get there at some point of time. It's a journey, and things are
Yes.
changing.
Yes.
Things are changing for good.
Yes.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
what we
Yeah.
do, and one more thing, what we are doing is the storytelling. That's very
Mm-hmm.
important. So we have the women winning view. So the women employees who has achieved, what are the challenges they have faced. So this is one of the area we are always focusing on. We bring in people and we can ask them to give their experiences. That experience really helps us to understand what needs to be done better. This is one of the better achievement what we have seen. And also what we have recently introduced is like we are looking at women advisory committee. We have come up with a women advisory committee that can help the women employees to empower, and we can understand their career goals. And also we do some of the service, especially that is related with the women. We understand what are the challenges they are facing and how we can mitigate those area we are covering up right now.
Yeah, it's really nice to know what your organization is doing at various level, not just the leadership, but all top to down across the organization.
Yes.
So thank you, Jude, for your insight. I would also like to call Pratibha to share her personal perspective on how it has happened in her organization. What is the communication strategy?
So I think I mentioned it in my introduction. I'm very thankful that I've been part of organizations which pursued this topic with great passion, right? Um, in my current organization, I think we are a 100-year-old organization. The topic of D&I is again, I'm proud to say that it's not new to us, but I think with the current environment, it is important to call it out very actively. So we actively seek diversity, boldly pursue equity, and promote consciously promote inclusion, right? So that's what we go with. Of course, I think it is important to set this as your as an organizational goal, right? Versus a siloed strategy. So what has helped us is definitely this being core to the delta behaviors that we expect. Um, so each one of us 100,000 people are expected to follow certain behaviors, and core to that is diversity and inclusion, right? And a lot of other things. I mean, for the lack of better words, I'm just using these two terms, but like Esha
Mm-hmm.
said, it's an evolving topic, right? So everything and this so what has helped us is, I think, most of our initiatives are people led, and again close to 35,000 people of our people are part of one or the other BRG, business resource groups, that we have. These BRGs work on areas that they are passionate about. Could be women at workplace, or could be uh, intergenerational diversity, right? Like I mentioned, we are a 100-year-old organization, and it is very interesting to see how different generations work with each other, right? So these are two examples, but there are 12 of those. So these BRGs actually act as a consultant to business, and how to promote topics and programs related to diversity in various businesses. So I think that's helped us a lot. And again, this is one of the many strategies that would have worked for us. But this is my favorite. It really is something that we are very proud of. Of course, additionally, we cater to 300 plus destinations across the globe, right? So imagine the diversity of our customers as well. So we definitely would like more representation in our workforce, so that when our customers come and see that, okay, I'm being serviced by one of my tribe, right? So it does bring in that cohesiveness, right? So I think it's definitely core to us, and there are various ways that the organization is trying to promote it, but these are two examples that I can think of.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pratibha, for bringing in your perspective here. As we are closing this panel discussion, I would like you all to just summarize your views, and then we will move ahead with the audience question and answers. We have some interesting questions lined up by the audience as well. I would want each one of you to summarize in a line or two the whole thing that we all talked about. What the communication, miscommunication, we talked about AI, social media, hybrid work environment, and various strategies that your organization is pursuing. So I would like to start with Isha here first, to just summarize on what audience should take away in just a line or two.
Very simply, digital and diversity. If we want to be relevant as employees, if organizations want to be relevant and thrive, I think two things that we need to constantly focus on is diversity and digital. So these two behaviors will take us everywhere.
Thank you. So diversity and digital, as you said, we are focusing on keywords right now because keywords are the main thing. So diversity and digital, and it makes a lot of sense here, definitely. Let's moving ahead with Jude. I would like you to say what audience should take away from your perspective in just a line or two.
See, for me, if I look at it, actually, the DEI communication, it should be consistent across, whether it's internal or external. And it should also cover up the entire goals of an organization. It should be a key point for the organization's, the strategy and how we can achieve the business outcomes. And the major thing I will also cover up with the same, whatever Isha told. Obviously, don't depend on the AI and social media too much. This can facilitate a lot of things, but somewhere we should also be careful. That is also very important. That's the last point. Even as she said, digital and DI, we have to separate and we have to manage very carefully,
Both are
because
like
otherwise, yes,
both digital and
DI,
both are like children. You have to take care of them, and whatever you want them to learn, you teach them, and they grow accordingly. And they'll
right. Either it is a
Thank
machine language or either it is our language. We should be very careful.
Correct. Thank you, Jude. So that summarizes us. Be consistent and definitely give a human touch to all the machines around us, and don't just depend on the technology blindly. Thank you, Jude. And next, lastly, I would like to call Pratibha to summarize this on your perspective.
Sure. So it's definitely was a very interesting session. I think I would like to borrow what Esha said. It's a journey. It's such an evolving topic that I think the only way for us to move forward, whether it's in our personal life or are in corporate life or wherever we are, is to embrace it with dignity, because there's no way out. I mean, it's our world is the world is in our phone screens today, right? But if you don't embrace it, I think there would be a constant struggle, right, across, because this is the only way out. I mean, it's a global village now, right? So I think yeah, that would be my final thought.
Thank you, Pratibha, for that last thing. That yes, with all this thing, we just need to embrace how we are living because it's a big world, large world, ever changing scenarios, and embracing is the only path ahead. With that, I would now take up questions from our audience, and thank you all the panelists for that wonderful discussion. So the first question is from Sonu. So he asks, does focusing on diversity in recruitment compromise the focus on skill and experience? How can companies balance both diversity and the skills? So this is on the recruitment. I'm sure Jude would definitely have his point to give.
So definitely, I will take this question. There is no compromise. I can say there is no compromise. The situation is like how we are giving that importance and how we are. See, for example, I take one simple example. We are giving an opportunity for our returning mothers and the women who has taken a break. See, we should be having the mindset. Okay, everyone has their own prior experience on the particular skills. The thing is like we are not hiring anyone without having the technical skills. Obviously, they are having a skills, but they have taken a break. See, sometimes what happens, no? If I look at it from the technical panel's perspective or from the delivery perspective, people may be a little bit afraid. Okay, how this guy can manage when they have taken a break. So only thing is what we are doing is like we have to explain them. Okay, the person is really good. Obviously, the person has taken a break because of these things.
Mhm.
When we are giving the right reasons and justifications, definitely that will not impact anything on the skills. So they are also going through the same interview process. The thing is like we are giving the privilege for them to what is it share their challenges and how we are helping them to grow. That is the different thing actually. Apart from that, we are not compromising on the skills.
Definitely. Even I, in my perspective, we don't see it's compromise. We, in turn, are bringing different perspective to a particular scenario or a particular project or a particular thing. So it's always a different thing that we are bringing together, and that's the whole point of diversity. The another question is on the similar lines. How do we address the issue of diversity being focused solely on race or gender and not on the other underrepresented group with some specific disabilities? So, anybody would like to say something? I'm sure this is a question on some miscommunication that it's not solely on the race and gender, it's all inclusive.
I can go first, and maybe
Yeah.
Pratibha and you, I'd love to hear your thought process. So, this is a very good question because, we do have, when we talk about diversity, we mean everything, right? It's all encompassing. It's not just race, gender, ethnicity, geographic diversity. You could have your orientations, neurodiverse, physical. So we are looking at everything under the umbrella of diversity. But I love the question because it is indeed a challenge. It is indeed a challenge, and I'm sure Jude and Pratibha will agree that when we look at hiring, when we look at talent acquisition, or for that matter, talent engagement, it is very difficult to find maybe people with disabilities, neurodiversity. One is finding the talent, in that community or in that group. But the second part is when we bring them on board, how do we engage? Does the organization have the infrastructural wherewithal? Do we have the capacity? Do we have the understanding and the knowledge of how do we not just attract these talent, but how do we retain them? How do we grow them? Right? So there is a lot of work to be done in the area. It is definitely an area where it is difficult to find the talent, attract the talent, groom the talent. So I think we all as leaders need to work out a plan. How do we consciously go about attracting different talent? And how do we make our workplaces in such a way that all the people with disabilities are felt embraced, they are felt welcome, and so definitely a lot of work to be done in this area.
Right. So completely agree with what Esha said. I think we are far, far away from being, absolutely inclusive. It's when we talk of diversity today, I think it just because we're so far ahead that we today talk about, say, gender and just get stuck with that topic itself, versus it is such a complicated topic. And the corporate structure, for that matter, has not evolved at a pace at which it should have to support, the kind of diverse talent that we have. And of course, it could be, some of the developed countries may be far ahead in this game, but I think, rightly said, bringing in the talent is not the only answer, but how to groom them, how to retain them, how to make them feel inclusive. Because it's not only about the diversity number that you show in the spreadsheet or you market it, right? It's also about how inclusive that group feels. So I think it is, it's easy to go out there in the market and call ourselves a diverse employer, or whatever, diverse organization. But it is definitely important to prepare ourselves with the infrastructure. It could be, there could be, the nature of business could be such that for an organization cannot support a certain, diverse group. So how do we first of all accept it, right? And be, be authentic about what we can actually do and how we can support various groups. So I think it also is, it's not just at the corporate level today. I think it's across, whether it's our schools or whether it's our communities. I think the acceptance needs to start at the grassroots versus only at the corporate structure. But I think it's, like you said, Isha, it's a journey, so it's not a destination. And it's, we'll keep evolving.
Sure. Thank you, Pratibha, Isha, and Jude for insightful discussion. With that, I would like to call it a full stop for this particular session. But we are all available on the our panelists are available on the LinkedIn. You can approach them. Please post in your questions on the LinkedIn posts that are there, or we have the YouTube channel. Please do follow it. And if you have any questions, want to get in touch with anybody, social media, as we were discussing, it's a big platform with all the pros and cons there, and the journey is much more way ahead. Speak about DEI so much that our future generation feel more belonged and don't need to discuss it over and over again. With that, this is Khushbu Rani and signing off on behalf of all the panelists present here, and thank you for being wonderful audience. Thank you, Shinjin, once again for this wonderful panel discussion opportunity.
Thank you,
Thank
Kushbu. Thank you, Pratibha. Thank you, Isha.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for joining this session.
Thank
Thank
Actually,
you.
thank you.
Thank
take care.
you.
Bye.
Bye.